Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back in an episode of Into Darkness, our series dedicated to our Space Station Zero solo play campaign. And this is Battle Report number 11. This is a challenge number 13, the Weapons Locker. So in this scenario, my crew has stumbled upon a weapons locker full of old ancient alien weaponry located on Space Station Zero. I do have my work cut out for me though, because I do have two sets of guard drones represented by these Death Guard Plague Marine miniatures that I have to fight through, and hopefully I'll be able to survive this and at the same time get my secondary objective completed, which is a weapons secondary objective for my team. So that being said, we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we will talk about the scenario rules, and at the same time talk about the roster for my crew, Thundrik's Profiteers of the Skyfarer. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Challenge 13, Weapons Locker. This base seems to be a weapons storage unit. There are racks of weapons of all types and sizes along the walls, the armaments of dozens, perhaps hundreds of alien species. Most of those weapons do not seem to have fared well over the intervening centuries since their deposit. In the center room, there are 4 large bays, each full of what looks like fully autonomous drones. As you enter, the drones wake up, and though it appears most of the weapons may be useless, their guardians are not. So for this scenario, ladies and gentlemen, this one is actually pretty straightforward, which is actually kind of nice for once. Instead of dealing with environmental hazards that I have no control over, all I have to do is eliminate the 4 guard drones that are located on the battlefield. Now, I do have my work cut out for me. The guard drones have 8 life, 5 movement, 4 combat, 4 reaction, as well as 2 intelligence. They're also armed with heavy fists, which give a close combat attack of +1 to their combat score, and an integrated fusion ion cannon, which is an energy and range attack that gives them +4 to their combat. So these things are no slouches in combat. At the same time, they also have a special ability called Shield, which means the first point of damage that would be dealt as a result of any single combat test to a guard drone is negated. So I have to eliminate all 4 of these drones, and once I do so, I have 2 potential rewards for this one. First, any single crew member may attempt to harvest one of the guard drone's fusion ion cannons. This requires a reaction test of 3 with a 4+ on a single roll, and if successful, you may add the weapon to the roster of one of your crews. Only one such weapon may be harvested from the drones, regardless of the number of their drones. The rest are destroyed in the fighting. At the same time, I also find 2 energy missile weapons, which I then can add to my rosters if I want to. Now, I do have a secondary agenda on this one. And the secondary agenda of this one is a weapons secondary agenda, which my crew has. And once I complete this scenario, I can roll a d12. On a roll of 5+, you've discovered a necessary item for your secondary agenda. For your weapons, you have discovered weapons and components to upgrade your weapons that will make your crew feel more safe and help you defeat your enemies. Choose 2 members of your crew. You may increase their combat stat by 1. So with the scenario rules over with, I'm going to give you guys some couple of minutes here to look at the roster that we have, and then move on to the battle report. So the scenario for this one is actually quite simple. It's pretty straightforward. All I gotta do is take care of these 2 sets of guard drones and defeat those guys, and once I do that, I pretty much accomplish the objective, which is kind of nice because up to this point I've been dealing with gas leaks, slippery floors, tar pits, all kind of environmental hazards, so just going it down and just fighting some actual combat seems like an absolute joy compared to some of the challenges I had to face up to this point, so I'm really looking forward to that. But I do have my work cut out for me though. The guard drones have 8 life, they also have 5 movement, 4 combat, 4 reaction, as well as 2 intelligence. At the same time, they also have an ion cannon, which gives them a +4 to their combat results for range combat. They also have a heavy fist, which gives them +1 to their combat as well. They're also the very first enemies I've ever actually faced that actually has an armor value to attach to these guys. So these guys are actually armored value 8, which means I usually have to roll an 8 or higher for me to wound these guys for most normal combat. However, 3 members of my crew are armed with energy missile weapons, so because of that, they do ignore armor, so that part's kind of nice. So that'll be kind of cool. But Kazgan Drexkewer as well as Thundrik Ironhell, however, they use a heavy melee weapon as well as a heavy kinetic weapon, so I do have to roll 8 or higher in order to wound those guys, so I do have my work cut out for me there. At the same time, they also have the shield special ability, which means that they automatically deduct 1 damage from any damage it might take, so I do have my work cut out for me there. At the same time, over here on this side, of course, I have my crew. Up in the front is Garrett Allison, my pilot, followed by Deadeye Lund, my medical officer. We have Thundrik Ironhell, my engineer, Kazgan Drexkewer, my soldier, and Bjorgen Thundrik, my commander. So for the most part, my plan here is to pretty much try to be as surgical as possible. I plan on actually trying to take out this unit first. And the reason why is because the way the terrain is set up, there's only one access point, which is this door here, as well as a door here. So I'm planning on actually taking my guys and having them skirt along the flanks and then engage my enemy that way. That way I don't have to worry about taking on all four guard drones at the same time. Hopefully these two will struggle to kind of catch with the rest of my crew, or my crew manage to deep six these two. And then from there, I just take my time and hopefully take out these last two drones and hopefully survive this challenge. And that's pretty much the battle plan and the tactics ongoing for this one. So with the battle plans and tactics over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and I get to go first because I have initiative. Alright, so that brings us directly to the end of turn number 1, so let's go and talk about exactly what happened. So first of all, for my very first activation, I activated Enric Ironhill. He actually did double movements all the way directly down from his deployment area down over here. And the reason why I did that, so that way I can start learning out these bottom two drones start coming out of the woodwork. Now, of course, the next drone, of course, did go through the very first one over here. I actually did a standard movement to move directly to the door, and it actually opened fire directly at Enric Ironhill. Luckily for me, though, I managed to survive that without much incident taking place there. I then activated Kazgan Draxskewer. Kazgan Draxskewer uses point-to-point teleporter option to teleport right next to Enric Ironhill, and then another teleportation all the way to the far corner of the battlefield, so that way you can start drawing some more drones directly to him. And since he's got such fast movement rates, I could actually have him just kind of skip around the board and just kind of pulling these fighters towards him. Now the second guard drone, of course, they decided to do double movements, moving directly through this door here, and then directly to the left to go after Kazgan Draxskewer. From there, I then activated Bjorgen Thundrik, who used his logistics expertise to move down directly down here, doing 2 sets of movement, doubling his movement allowance. He then opened fire directly into the guard drone, but look, unfortunately for me though, it just was unable to get a high enough roll to cause enough damage on him. I actually managed to put 5 successes on this one, but my opponent actually, the robot actually rolled 4 successes, and also because of the energy shield on it, it also loses 1 damage as well, so not much happened there. From there, up here on the top, this guard drone decided to do double movements going through this door over here, make its way directly towards the bottom left-hand corner, trying to engage in Kazgan Draxskewer. From there, I then activated Garen Allison, uses jump boost to move over directly to this corner, open fire with his energy weapon directly into this guard drone. But just like before, it just wasn't able to roll high enough in order to cause any damage, plus the 1 damage it did cause was dropped by the shield, so that part was extremely frustrating. Meanwhile, over in the top, the very last of the guard drones actually did double movements directly out of this top area here, making his way directly to this door because at the time that's where Deadeye Lund was located at. Deadeye Lund, however, did double movements directly towards the rest of the group, so that way he's got a good overwatching position to open fire anything that comes to that door. And that pretty much makes up all the actions for turn number 1. So turn number 1 over with, we go directly to the top at turn number 2. Alright, so that takes us directly to turn number 2. So my very first activation, I activate Kazgan Draxskewer. Kazgan Draxskewer, of course, tried to use his close combat attack directly off on this guard drone. He actually used 1 simple action to move forward, another action to open attack with his heavy melee weapon. Unfortunately for me though, because of the Armor Force 8 that this guard drone has, I was able to cause any damage whatsoever. I managed to get 2 successes, but I was able to save both of those, plus the energy shield negated 1 of them automatically, so that part was pretty rough. Now, luckily for me, on the other hand, when the guard drone attacked back, it flubbed its rolls as well, so Kazgan is perfectly fine. Now, for my next activation, I was able to steal initiative, so I activated Enric Ironhill. He decided to open fire directly with his heavy kinetic weapon directly into this guard drone, but unfortunately for me, though, I failed my shots, so not much really happened there. From there, that guard drone then proceeded to move up forward directly from that entryway and decided to open fire with its weapon, this ion cannon. Managed to put 3 wounds directly onto Enric Ironhill, so that part was kind of rough. So from there, I then activated Deadeye Lund. Deadeye Lund moved directly from his current position down directly towards Enric Ironhill and used one of his actions in order to heal him up, so he's perfectly fine. From there, of course, the next action that took place was over here with this guard drone. It moved up its normal movement allowance and tried to open fire with its energy weapon directly into Kazgan Draxskewer, but luckily for me, that missed its shot for the most part, just kind of flubbed its roll, so it's perfectly fine. From there, I then had Bjorgen Thundrik use basically his movement to go behind this drone, so that way this drone would turn around and actually attack him next turn. Did manage to put 2 wounds onto him, so that part was kind of nice. From there, at the top, the next guard drone wove its way through the door directly to the top and tried to open fire with its energy weapon directly into Garen Allison, but it failed. And then Garen Allison tried to open fire back into this drone, but unfortunately for me, I wasn't going to do much of anything. So that pretty much makes up turn number 2 for this one. So I got my work still cut out for me. So turn 2 over with, we go directly to the top at turn number 3, and I get to go first. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 3, and this is where I realized that things are going to be much more difficult than I originally anticipated. So just to give you guys a brief overview of pretty much what ended up happening. For the most part, Kazgan Draxskewer, of course, did try to move up and try to engage this this guard drone, but unfortunately for me, though, I was able to get past its armor save just because having a heavy melee weapon. Now, of course, this thing backed up because the AI rolls and tried to open fire with its ion cannon directly into Kazgan Draxskewer. Luckily for me, it failed. At the same time, this guard drone tried to do exactly the same thing, moving around the corner, opening fire, but luckily for me, it failed as well. Meanwhile, over here in this melee, for the most part, I'm now doing a fighting retreat. I'm basically pulling myself back into these narrow corridors. Hopefully, I can limit the number of shots that these guys can take at me by doing so. So I first start with Enric Ironhell. He does a double move right over here to the back because his weapon is pretty much useless against these guys, so I just have him moving around for the most part. Followed up quickly by Garrett Allenson, Deadeye Lund, as well as Bjorga Thundrik. Now, unfortunately for me, Deadeye Lund did take a wound from this guard drone, but I was able to put 2 more wounds directly onto him, so it's halfway dead. This guard drone tried to move up and try to open, did double movements all the way up from that door, make its way forward. And yeah, so far, between the combined shooting of all my groups, I was able to put one of these things at halfway life. So this is where I realized now this is going to take a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. So bear with me on this one. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 4. So let's get it on. Alright, so that takes directly to the end of turn number 4, and once again, things are just taking a lot longer than I originally anticipated. So first of all, I activated Kazgan Draxskewer, who did charge directly into this guard drone. Was able to put 3 wounds on him, which is absolutely fantastic. It did try to open fire with its weapons right back at me, but unfortunately it failed. Same thing with this guard drone over here, trying to attack Kazgan Draxskewer as well. Meanwhile, over here, I do a fighting retreat, and the rest of my crew members pull back into this back room. At the same time, Deadeye Lund managed to also heal himself up to 1 wound. And the reason why is because of the shots he was actually taking. He actually suffered 4 wounds this turn, so that part was pretty brutal. At the same time, I was at Bjorgen Thunder do the sacrifice play. He actually moved up here towards his generator, so that way would have caused these guys to back up, so that way they can redirect their shots directly towards him. Luckily for me, though, Bjorgen Thunder survived all of his shots. In the end, I was able to put 2 more wounds directly onto this last one, so he's only got 2 more wounds before this guard drone is finally dead. But like I said before, I got my work cut out for me on this one, and this is taking a lot longer than anticipated. So that being said, we go directly to the top at turn number 5. Alright, so from there we go directly to the end of turn number 5. So for the most part, I was able to finally kill off one of the guard drones as well, thanks to Bjorgen Thundrik was able to put the last killing blow on that guy. Because I shifted him over to the left for a little bit, that caused this guy to actually back away and then engage the closest target from him, which is Garrett Allenson. Lucky for me though, not much really happened there, so he's perfectly fine. Now for the rest of the turn, of course, the rest of my guys opened fire directly onto this one guard drone left, so because I was able to put 2 wounds onto him. Meanwhile, up here on the top of the table, once again, that guard drone up here on the top did try to back away from Kazgan Draxskewer and open up with its ion cannon, but luckily for me though, it failed. I was able to put up to 6 wounds on this guy, so 2 more and he's dead. The next guard drone, of course, is falling up the back, trying to do exactly the same thing, try to shoot him, but unfortunately it failed as well. So like I said, kind of like a grind fest right now for turn number 5. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 6, and I got initiative. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 6, and finally some good things started happening. So first of all, I activated Enric Ironhell. Enric Ironhell, my engineer, took a normal movement to move up directly to this door to open it up. What that did is I gave him a good line of sight directly towards this guard drone, and he opened fire with his heavy kinetic weapon. Now, luckily for me, when I rolled off from my attack score, I rolled like 312, so because of that, I was able just to deep six that drone, no problem, without causing any problems whatsoever. Now from there, because of that, the second drone, which is this guy over here, he decided to back up according to the AI rules, and he opened fire with his ion cannon directly into Kazgan Draxskewer. But luckily for me though, Kazgan Draxskewer survived that shot with no wounds, so for my next activation I had to move up directly towards him and engage him in close combat. Managed to put 6 wounds directly onto that guy, so that part was absolutely insane. So that part was great as well. Rolled 2 12s when I finally rolled that one. So finally things were starting to turn around. Now from there, I was able to steal initiative real quick, so because of that, I then activated Bjorgen Thundrik. Bjorgen Thundrik then moved directly from the top of this area here down directly over here, and he opened fire with his energy-based weapon. Managed to put a couple more wounds on this guy. This guy tried to open fire directly into Garrett Allenson, but luckily for me, though, he missed his shot. So because that Deadeye Lund then goes next, he opened fire. Managed to get 2 more 12s on that guy. Because I was able to D6 this very last guard drone as well. And then lastly, of course, Garrett Allison, he managed to fly over here real quick using his normal moon allowance. He opened fire with his energy weapon, put the 2 last wounds directly onto this guard drone, and just like that, defeated all the guard drones for this challenge, bringing it into the game with a victory for Thundrik's Profiteers. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to directly to the post game because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So when it comes to the post game on this one, Bjorgen Thundrik actually leveled up to level 4 with his experiences. So because I got to put one additional point in any stat that I wanted to, and since Bjorgen Thundrik is the slowest member of my crew, I decided to throw into movement for him. So now he's movement 5, just like everybody else for the most part. At the same time, I was able to actually find 2 additional energy missile weapons, as well as manage to harvest a fusion ion cannon as well. Now I decided to give Kazgan Draxskewer, my soldier, the fusion ion cannon because, for obvious reasons, he's my soldier. So I want to give him the most powerful weapon. He also has his heavy melee weapon as a backup, which is kind of nice. At the same time, I also gave Enric Iron Hell an energy missile weapon as well. So that way he's carrying both weapons. He's carrying an energy missile weapon as well as a heavy kinetic missile weapon. And the reason why I decided to keep both is because you might run into a challenge later on where the energy weapons might not be that great. And that's the reason why I created such a diversity of weapons for my crew, because what if I ran into a situation where energy weapons are useless? I wanted somebody with a heavy kinetic missile weapon as well as a heavy close combat weapon, just in case I ran into this kind of situations. So that's the reason why I've distributed the equipment that I have. Now I do have an extra piece of gear, which is an extra energy missile weapon, which I'll keep in my stash until I can find some other way to use it. At the same time, I did manage to get my secondary objective, which was to find new weapons, and so because I increased the combat score of both Deadeye Lund, my medical officer, as well as Enric Ironhell. So now both my medical officer and my engineer have combat 5, so my team is actually doing quite well, all things considered. So with the combat over with now for battle report number 11, that's good for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.